This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go.
Welcome to the Clark Connection Podcast, where we dive into real conversations about leadership, growth, and purpose. In today's episode, I'm joined by Coach David Simoneux, a leader who's built his coaching career on more than just X's and O's. Coach Simoneaux shares his powerful journey into the world of coaching and how mentorship, accountability, and strong character have shaped the way he leads young men, both on and off the field. We dig deep into what it means to coach with intention, how relationships are the true foundation of leadership, and the mindset that it takes to overcome real challenges. Plus, we talk about the books and the resources that have influenced his personal growth and what it's like to guide a team all the way to a state championship. But before we dive into that, I got to give a huge shout out to our premier sponsors, Vicki Hubbard with Hubbard Flooring Studios. Vicki and her team are masters at transforming spaces, laying down foundations of beauty and strength, just like the foundations we build in leadership. Whether you're looking to refresh your home or reimagine your workspace, Hubbard Flooring Studio has you covered from the ground up. And they just added Hunter Douglas blinds to their collection. So go visit them on Boylan Avenue in Baton Rouge, or you can give them a call at 225-924-1582, or they just go browse around on their website at hubbardflooringstudio.com. Remember, great leadership starts with a strong foundation, and Vicki and her team know exactly how to set that in place. Also, a quick shout out to our other amazing sponsors. Wayne with 7K Metals. For your silver and gold needs, they're your trusted source for securing your financial future. Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC. They're your destination for holistic healing and craniosacral therapy. Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, bringing ease and efficiency to your business. Joseph with Landscape King, creating beautiful outdoor spaces 1 yard at a time. CNJ Embroidery, custom designs that make your brand pop. And look, we're so grateful for their support. And if you're looking for any of their services, go hit them up and make sure that you tell them the coach sent you their way. Now, if you're looking to connect with me, or maybe you have questions that you want to get answered, as part of our Ask the Coach, all you have to do, there's a form right down in the comments, in the description. Go fill out that form. I'd love to hear from you, and I get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. So quick background on Coach Simoneaux. This is why y'all are here. That he has spent 21 years coaching high school football. He spent his first 6 years as an assistant coach at Parkview Baptist here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He spent the next 5 years as the offensive coordinator, strength coach, and wore a whole bunch of different hats while at Central High School in Baton Rouge. And then he went on and spent 6 years as the head coach at Catholic Point Capee. Then came back to the Baton Rouge area. I spent 2 years as a head coach at Catholic High School in Baton Rouge, where he won the first of his 2 state championships. And now going into his 3rd year as the head coach at Central High School, where he just won his 2nd state championship and Central High School's first state championship since the 1970s. And so look, whether you're a coach, a leader, or someone who wants to grow, this episode is full of insights you don't want to miss. So let's jump into the conversation with Coach Simoneaux.
All right, and welcome to the show, Coach.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to have a conversation.
Yeah, no, really excited to dive into. I mean, one that I've always admired is that you're a builder of leaders. It's always been something I got to know Coach Simoneaux before he was state championship winning head coach, Coach Simoneaux. Uh, but let's kind of go back to the beginning. What is it that got you into coaching?
Yeah, man, I had an awesome experience in high school. My freshman year of high school, we were 3-7, and my sophomore year, we were 8-3. Junior year, 11-2. Senior year, 15-0 in the school's first state championship. I was a small part of that team, and but the guys that came in and made that change were Coach Ken Guillot, Coach Jay Mae, Scott Dietrich. Those guys were just guys that came in and really modeled manhood for me at a point in my life where I was extremely impressionable as a young man. And, I initially went to college, thinking I was going to go into business and run a hotel or become an entrepreneur or whatever it may be. But really, God just kind of put it on my heart to, use the platform and the influence that he had given me through the tools that I'd learned from Coach Guillot, Coach Mae, and those guys, to try and impact and influence, young men. And so, here I am. There was this distinct moment that we might be able to get into a little bit later on about, just kind of when I made that decision. But when I look back on the past 21 seasons that I've been coaching, just really blessed for the relationships and the journey that we've been on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's one that's so crucial. I talk about it a lot, the importance of having a mentor and having that coach in your life. And that right there off the start, getting, 3 legends that in Louisiana State football that for coaching, that being able to come in and help shape and mold you and being able to return and give it back.
Another mentor of mine is Tyler LaFosse, and Tyler LaFosse was our physical therapist in high school. But Tyler always says, the greatest thing that you can do with your life is invest it into that which will outlast you. And, Tyler used to work on our knee or work on our back or ankle or whatever it may be, but he's really working on your spirit and your soul at the same time. But, we're all using, I hope and pray that, what we're doing with our platform at Central is using it to, minister and to mentor young men. And, certainly all 4 of those guys I just mentioned were big part.
Yeah. And that's one that I noticed even because I was fortunate enough to be with you your last year at Central the first time before you became the head coach at Catholic Point Capee. So I noticed that was one that always stood out was you were always trying to build up the young men. They always pour into them. They share the gospel with them. What are things that you do though that make it to where you're building such good men of character?
Well, man, I think it's got to start with you, and what I've learned the hard way is that if it's not happening in you, it won't occur through you. And so, I think that we get so busy as leaders. I think we get so busy as husbands, fathers, that, we don't put the old mask on ourselves, we're trying to put it on everybody else. We end up suffocating and burning out. And, we end up really being flat as leaders. And, man, I've just really, I think my journey in the last decade for sure, but probably, in the last 5 to 8 years since I've had children, has really made me be so much more intentional about my free time and make sure I'm positively programming myself to just wire my mindset and my mentality for success. Because if you spend all this time feeding others and you don't feed yourself, you're gonna be empty, And I think that probably sounds cliche, but it's such a fist fight for me. And, just something that I have to do a great job of not burning the candle at both ends and making sure I'm not filling my cup back up.
Yeah. And that actually kind of reminds me, I just finished reading that book called Winning the War in Your Mind, by David Groskell. I don't remember the last, but
Is that Dave?
real good one.
Craig Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was I was like, what is his name? But yeah, so like you'd mentioned, you start with you. You work on you first. What are some things that you do for you?
Yeah. Man, I think, and I tell our kids this, that there's so much good out there for you. You got to stay away from the bad stuff, which, like, good is the enemy of great, right? And so, I've had to become real intentional about putting the telephone down. The busier I get, obviously, and this is just low hanging fruit stuff, but maximizing my time. My phone stays on do not disturb, and I apologize for how long it took us to connect. But I'm remodeling this house and all that stuff, and I'm excited to be on here and excited to have a conversation. But really disconnected, man, and like, I think if you look back at the last couple of years of Central football, our two themes have been, number one, separate and elevate, and then number two, built different. And so, like, both of those to me are about intentionally not conforming to the pattern of this world, but being renewed each day by or being not conforming to the pattern of this world, being renewed by the pattern of your mind. We use Romans 12:2 in our state championship ring, has that on the inside of it. And, so, you gotta unplug, but the number one thing I want to do in the morning is I want to get up and I want to get moving, and, it shakes the cobwebs off of me. I'm doing more running than I ever have before, but, it's kind of replacing my morning cup of coffee. I'm trying to use the Andrew Huberman, wait 90 minutes to drink a cup of coffee method. Some mornings that works, some mornings it doesn't. I've already had my cup of coffee and my jog this morning. But then I'm going to spend some time in scripture, either reading, writing, and praying. To me, connecting with my creator is, he's the author and he's got the manual to who we are and what he's called us to be, and I just know that every second that I've spent in the word or in prayer has magnified my ability to use my time well. And so connecting with my creator in the morning, and then I try and stay in some type of other book just to sharpen the sword. And I'm always on a podcast. So that's kind of my little ritual and routine. When I'm on that, that's when I'm living my best life for sure.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, so one, I wanted to say that didn't bother me at all. Whenever you like, oh, I'm sorry about, I get it that I run 6 college campuses as well. So I can only imagine dealing with the high school boys and the children. You said the remodel and
yeah,
everything going on. Get it. That's actually a good one. I'm going to start doing that because that's one that I'm bad at. Once I'm home, if that phone rings, man, I'm answering it.
Right.
So I'm going to start doing that once up. Because I think you can even set it to the geolocation where it'll say, dude, you can, when you enter like your house, do not disturb is turned on. So I'm going to definitely have to start doing that myself. Wanting to stay on, you were talking about what you do for yourself. So I'm wanting to stay on that. You mentioned you're reading, you pray, that podcast. What are some other books, you mentioned the Bible, that you read or maybe are reading right now that are using to help grow David Simoneux?
Man, I got to tell you, I'm really excited about Inner Excellence, a book by Jim Murphy that I ran across that is, there's some philosophies and mindsets in there that, you feel like maybe you internally know, but you were probably never smart enough to articulate as well as Jim Murphy's doing. And as you read, you're kind of like, man, this is what I've always been trying to say. And this fits me. But Jim is a master of breaking down kind kind of the idea that, we're so focused on the way that people perceive us. We're so worried about status in America. We're so worried about outcomes that we're really doing more to put on a facade than we are to actually become excellent from the inside out, And man, that's just a concept that I've always been obsessed with. And inside of all of our programs, we've always used the parable of the talents as the baseline, the measuring stick for what success is, and it doesn't matter what the outcome is. It really matters how you attack your work and, how you're going about maximizing your own potential. The mission statement of our whole athletic program as central is to maximize human potential and create champions on the field and in life, and I feel like as coaches, that's what we're called to do. I go back to Jeffrey Marks, another guy that's been instrumental in my life, that always said, the word coach is just, it was formed from the word stagecoach. Back in the late 1800s, a stagecoach was something that took a person of importance from point A to point B. And that's our job as coaches, So I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but
no, I love that point. I've said that all the time, is that all a coach is somebody who gets someone from point A to point B. And that was kind of what really got me wanting to start the whole podcast, is trying to be able to bring other leaders on here to, show, because sometimes, like you said, we get so focused on what does everybody else think, but we all have that same struggle. We all wonder, hey, am I doing a good enough job? Am I doing enough to make sure that my team's winning, my business is growing, my family's getting fed? Am I going to hit this target? Am I going to hit this goal? And going through, like you said, that was one, and I'll probably bring that back up with my team again. I hadn't done it in a while. Was the parable of talents. That was one I always did, that coach in high school. And tell them, hey, you might have 5, you might have 2, you might have 1. But if you don't use your 1, it's going to be taken from you. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Well, man, I just always point out the idea that, to the one who went and buried his talent, I just find it so severe. The verse when it says, we will cast you in the outer darkness where it'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, but I think that just shows the mindset that you have to have, that, God favors those who don't bury their talent, who don't stand for mediocrity, that don't want to be the status quo, that are starving to maximize their own potential. And when you're living in that type of way, I feel like there's peace and contentment inside of that growth, and it's not about turning your 5 talents into 10. It's really just about putting your personal best out there. It's so hard to define that for kids, man, because, they see this championship that we just won or whatever it may be. And golly, I'm so proud of the journey that Central football and Central athletics are on right now, and the things that we're achieving. But I'm also proud of the internal growth that you see inside of the program, of just building this group of leaders and young men that, maybe in year 1, you didn't have the level of accountability, you didn't have the level of character, you didn't have the level of mental and physical toughness. And then you look at some of these kids that, you were able to program as freshmen that are now juniors, and you're saying, man, these kids get it. These kids are a lot further along. Man, these kids, they pick up a broom on their own. They serve one another. It's not all about look at me. And so, that's the type of stuff that you get excited about, looking forward to seeing how that turns out on the field too.
Yeah. And you said it earlier, don't be focused on the status quo, but it goes back to, good's the enemy of great. And I tell everybody, great's the enemy of better. And best is the enemy of getting better. You got to always be looking to give just that little bit more, just a little bit more. And who knows where you'll reach. on there. And guys, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, follow button so we can continue to bring on great guests like Coach Simoneaux right here. Kind of sticking on that personal growth of yourself that you'd mentioned podcasts. You always listen to a podcast. What are some that you listen to?
Man, I'm going to tell you, Ryan Hawk's podcast is exceptional. It's called The Learning Leader. And I don't know how I stumbled across it or somebody sent me an episode or whatever, but a lot of times I'll run across podcasts and I'll like one out of every three or whatever it may be. But he's just been exceptional. His guests are exceptional. They all seem to be grinders that, started from nothing and maybe spent the first 15 or 20 years of their career just trying to figure it out and failing but staying in the fight and winning. And I've always told people that, I was never the biggest. I was never the fastest. I was never the smartest. But I did have this, I've always had a great ability to stay in the fight and to endure adversity and maybe just outlast people. And, that podcast just kind of epitomizes a lot of those different things, so I resonate with that. John Gordon's always got exceptional people on. I was a huge John Maxwell guy when I was in my probably first 10 years of my career. Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast is really, really good. I've always been a Jocko fan. Those get a little long, so I struggle to finish a lot of those, but some of the guys he has on there in terms of mental and physical toughness are just next level dudes that inspire me.
Oh yeah. And that's one, stay in the fight and having that endurance. I think that's about 90% of it in any industry, whether you're coaching or whether you're building a business or that, whatever it is. I've got, former player that's what he tells me all the time. I'm like, what did you do to make it work? He's like, I just showed up every day and everybody else ended up quitting and I'm still here. And then when you mentioned about like not being able to get or just staying in endurance, one that I don't know if you remember this or not, but I guess it was, so the last year that you were at Central, probably the worst football season they've had there in a long time. And I know that wasn't anything that to do with any of us, is just how it fell. No, but I remember we'd had our staff meeting that you were asking us about what do we need to do to get the offense rolling? What do we got to do to get this going or whatever? And then finished. And probably about 20 minutes later, we all got an email and all it said was, and I don't remember who the quote was by, was it said, any excuse, no matter how valid, weakens the character. And I was like, dang, I got to own my work, man. I'm not owning my work.
I stole that from Gary Pinkel a long time ago, man. And golly, when I was at Point Capilla, those kids have that ingrained in their head. But any excuse for non-performance, however valid, softens the character. It's a sedative against one's own conscience. And, to me, that's the extreme ownership, Jocko Willink, just like, hey, man, there may be a million reasons why this thing ain't going right, but at the end of the day, as leaders, we got to own it, and we got to keep trying to move this thing forward. And look, I think when those types of things are occurring in terms of the ownership piece, I think for any subordinate to see, a head coach, a position coach, a coordinator, whatever it may be, saying, "Hey, I got to get better." I think that just inspires them to see, hey, man, this guy's humble and he's willing to work. And I need to have no excuses too. And I need to keep putting my best foot forward, and we're going to find a way, come hell or high water.
So I actually just used it the other day. Literally, we're in a growing period at Delta College, and there's just a lot of different things going wrong. And we're upper level meeting, and somebody was, it's this and this and making. I'm like, guys, and I just dropped it. I was like, no matter how many whatever excuse you're making, I don't care how valid, that it's weakening who we are. We've got to own our mistakes. We've got to own that ultimately it's the 8 people that are in this room that's causing this not to work. It's us. And nobody likes to hear that. We got to, I start with me. Like you'd said, I got to go back and work on Aaron. It doesn't matter what everybody else says. Now, you'd mentioned like, all right, seeing kids, seeing their growth, seeing them become better people. That's kind of where we're at with it. And you mentioned like, hey, this guy seeing him pick up a broom. What are like some stuff you do to help with your players to grow into those young men that you'd like to see them become?
I think that relationships are the vehicle that all progress is made in terms of moving hearts and minds of employees or players or, leadership teams or whatever it may be. It all just starts from that bedrock of trust. And I think, in terms of specific tactics, like of doing that, I think people are just people. And I think that, a lot of times we overcomplicate this stuff, but, man, I got a kid that's going to be a senior that, I've seen kind of had a tough 7-on-7 season, and all the things that he's struggling with and things that really are his strong points. And, but being, having the rapport with that kid to be able to bring him into my office and just say, hey man, look, I noticed that you're not playing up to your potential. This is not me calling you in here and saying, I'm disappointed in you. This is me calling you in to say, I believe in you. I know that you're capable of doing the things that aren't showing up on film. You need to get out of your own head. Right now you got too much fear here because your outcomes that we talked about earlier, are not matching your expectations. And, in the movie Last Samurai, there's this part where Tom Cruise keeps getting beat up with the little samurai stick as he's learning. The guy stops him and he says, "Too many mind." And he's basically saying, you're thinking too much. You're capable of this, but you're spending way too much time over analyzing this. And that's what I explained to him, man. Like, just cut it loose. I think one of the reasons we played so well in that state championship game is, we were going to go out there, we were going to swing our sword, and, if we were going to lose, it wasn't going to be because we left any calls in the tank or because we didn't blitz enough or because we didn't just put it all out there, Look, man, in terms of, circling back to your question, in terms of moving these kids forward, man, I mean, you got to model it. And then you gotta promote the positive behavior that you do see, and then whatever you're permitting, you promote, so if you're allowing below the line behavior to occur, inside of your organization and it's not being held accountable, then you're really promoting, I'm stealing all that from Tim Kite, but, that's kind of our deal, man, is, we have the central standard. And, it's a line, and we have above the line is all the things that we try and praise, and all the things that we're trying to get the kids to live up to. And then, below the line is something else. And I can send you that graphic. But we want those kids to live above the line, and, we're going to promote the guys that are kicking butt and taking names that are living there. We're going to try and hold the guys accountable that aren't. I tell parents all the time, we're the type of coaches that if your kid needs a kick in the butt, we're going to do it. But if he needs a hug around the neck, we're going to be there to do it too. So it starts with relationships, man. And then, you got to have a standard. And so that's kind of a broad philosophy of what we try and do.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. That's when I was actually working, just got a new coaching client. And that they were talking about, these people are doing this and these people are doing that. And I literally just said that yesterday was, well, you're either teaching it that way or you're allowing it to happen. Which is it? And just kind of, they looked at me and I went, are you teaching it that way or are you allowing it to happen? I said, and I hope you're teaching it that way because that's a lot easier to fix than allowing it to happen.
Absolutely. And defining
so
those standards,
just on a saving quote. Yeah.
What's that? The old Saban quote?
Oh, that one. I think that was what I'd heard Saban say. You're either coaching it that way or allowing it to happen. I feel
Yeah.
like I was still in high school when I heard him say that.
Yeah. He's got the other one that talks about, if you got to have a standard, and if everybody doesn't adhere to that standard, you really can't have any team chemistry at all, because mediocre people don't like high achievers and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And to me, that's always just resonated like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, they can't stay together. I mean, you can't mix oil, you can't mix water.
Correct.
You can either have all oil or all water, but it's not going to mix together. And I think it's like you said, because you're telling your parents, all right, if your kid needs that kick in the butt, we go give them a kick in the butt. But if they need that hug around the neck, we go give them a hug on the neck too. But it goes back to, like you said, we build that relationship because you can do that. Like you said, bring that young man in and say, hey, bruh, what that? You're better than this. This is not me saying I'm disappointed in you. But then he knows that, hey, Coach Simoneaux is bringing me in here because he cares about me. And it allows you to kind of chew on them and love on them all at the same time. So, because we all need that.
What I try and tell my guys is demands without relationship lead to rebellion, and demands with relationship lead to response. So you got to cultivate that, that equity in that relationship in terms of, hey man, like we've been through enough together that I can call you in here, and we've predefined the standard of what it looks like in terms of the way we're all going to hold ourselves to above the line behavior. You always point to that North Star, the Central Standard is what we call it. But I definitely believe that those relationships are the vehicle to success.
Oh yeah. And then you mentioned that about the player in their head. How do you help somebody get out of their own head?
This may sound far-fetched, but and Jim Murphy talks about this in the book, but perfect love casts out all fear. And you got to have courage to go out there and just cut it loose. So, you got fear, and then you got love and courage. And to me, it's about trying to divorce kids from the outcomes, and trying to make them fall in love with the process and just play the game that they love, and just cut loose. Again, I know I've said that a lot, but, you got to build things inside of your process that, allow those kids to see that, hey man, we're not praising the outcome. We're praising the way that you attack your work. And I think that's best done when you're having success, right? So, there's a good outcome on a football play or a good outcome in a 7-on-7 or team event, game even. But, back to Saban, I mean, some of those fourth quarter tirades when they were up by 21, 28 points and, people were looking up at the scoreboard. So to me, man, like, hey man, why do you play this game? You're a 16-year-old, you're a 17-year-old. You play this game because you love it. You play this game because you're inside of a football family and a framework that is going to help equip you and build you to become, the best human being that you could possibly be. Like, this is not life or death, man. Like, all we want you to do, all we expect out of you is you to go out there and to cut it loose. It's not if you conquered, all right, it's how you fought the war. So, just being able to just continually just put that into them and, praise their efforts, man. I mean, that's what we want, is just effort, elite effort. So, if you do that, I feel like the rest of it's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know as we're kind of starting to wrap up just a little bit, one of you brought in the state championship game, wanted to talk about that one just a little bit. There was no doubt in my mind that Central was winning. That that don't watch film nearly like I used to, but was familiar with Ruston. We played them while I was at EA back in 2016. I think we went up there and we were like the number 28, 29 seed, and we pounded them. And so I was looking at it. I said, hey, I don't think Ruston has the speed to keep up with Central. And good night. That was fun to watch from my perspective.
Special night,
So
man.
it was. So tell me, what was it like leading up to the game? Like, what was the team's mentality? How were y'all feeling? Locker room before you head out, and then just kind of close it off with, what were you feeling, thinking that as that clock was ticking down and you knew, hey, I'm about to get this Gatorade bath?
Man, that's exciting. I just, those culminating events, it's really, it's so much better for the kids. For me, it's so much better to see the kids enjoying that. Golly, I remember Coach Corey Lindsay, who's our co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach. And I just remember like the joy on his face. He had never had the opportunity to be a part of a state championship, play in the NFL, All-American in college and stuff, but just to see the joy on his face and knowing that we together accomplished this, all the just, wives down on the field and the kids, getting to be down on the Superdome floor. Like, that's what I love, man. And to win them is great. And, it was incredible to win that football game in that style. But, I always go back to the old John Candy quote off of Cool Runnings. If you're never enough without the championship, without the Olympic gold medal, you'll never be enough with it. And I guess I've just gotten to the point in my career where those things really don't define me. But certainly we enjoy the heck out of them. And to go out there, you were asking a little bit about the mindset going into that game. We were tremendous underdogs in that game. And, I didn't feel quite as good about our matchup as maybe you did, you said, with the speed and all that type of stuff. Those dudes were just a machine on film, and, had been all across Texas, open up on some of the best programs early in the year over there and everything. But, our mentality was just that we were going to go out there and we were going to leave no calls in the bag, and we're going to play a really aggressive style of ball, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may, and kudos to Coach Camp and Coach Zach Morris for getting those kids ready to play. And, super game plan, and the kids just coming together at the right time, playing our best ball in week 15 and being able to come away with a exclamation point state championship trophy, man. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was where I just saw it. I remember because when we played them, it was kind of the same coaching staff. I was like, man, we had such the advantage on the edge. And then I liked what I saw as far as like your defensive ends, your outside linebackers and safeties, which was where I know they were going to try to attack. I mean, especially I love Marvin Jones. I didn't know he was a sophomore until like Josh Johns told me like week 12 or 13. I was like, dang, I had no idea that guy was a sophomore. Just watching him and what was number 2, Luke. I said, they ain't gonna be able to pick that middle. They ain't gonna get where they want to go. Then just rattled them all night from play one. Loved it. And so, Coach, as we're starting to wind down, man, my favorite question to ask everybody before I shut it down is, what's one thing I should have asked you that maybe I didn't ask you?
Oh man. That's a tough
I know
one.
it's a loaded question. It's a loaded question.
I mean, the one thing that I kind of alluded to at the start was maybe just the what getting a little bit deeper into what got me into coaching. And the story goes is that I played my freshman year of college at Millsaps, and had a good high school career. And after my freshman year, I transferred to McNeese, and I'd gotten a rundown on all the special teams and stuff at Millsaps and gotten to carry the ball a little bit. And then I went to McNeese, and became this small fish in this big pond, and battling some ankle injuries and different stuff like that. But, mostly just, around much better athletes than I was, and having a hard time just with my identity being so wrapped up in athletics, and all of a sudden, like, nobody really respected this little 5'10", 200-pound, tough guy that had always just outwilled people maybe. So, it was just a humbling experience, man. And I was having to divorce my identity from, being an athlete and trying to find myself. And I was reading The Purpose-Driven Life with a friend of mine, Chris Skiro. And Skiro was actually, I was his backup at Millsaps. He was a senior. I was a freshman. We're still close friends to this day. Chapter 37 of that book, is Rick Warren. And he says, at some point in time, you got to decide in life whether you're going to impress people or whether you're going to influence people. I swear it was like God hit me upside the head with a 2x4. And he was like, man, you've been spending your whole life trying to be David Simoneux, the athlete, David Simoneux, this or whatever. Like, I've called you to not impress people, but to influence people. And I've given you the game of football that you love and that you've watched other people influence and inspire and motivate people through. So I was at 645 Gale Street, apartment D, and McNeese, Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I hit my knees and I asked God to give me impact and influence. And he kind of showed me what my path was from there, so again, I look back on the past 21 years and I look at all the relationships, and I look at all the people that have impacted and influenced me through the game of football. And I looked at all the people I've been able to impact and influence. And I'm just thankful for that, and I'm thankful that my daughter and my kids have been able to watch me. My boys have been able to watch me just in all these relationships with all our players now, and on the stages that he's put us on. I'm thankful for it, I'm appreciative. And, so again, the God's word just coming in at the right time and kind of putting us on the right path, is something that I'll always be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I appreciate you getting on and sharing all that, Coach. It's always fun to hear stories about how people got things started and get it going and keep it going and stay motivated. And definitely love, that was my favorite part of coaching, was the relationship building with the young men, young women, and just getting to impact them daily. And it's all, that's my favorite part of what I do now is I now am no longer really like I'm not with the students. My job is to train the trainers and work with the trainers. And so it's kind of cool how God works and moves people through them, and being open to what he's asking you to do is tough. That takes a big man to say, all right, I'm going to change who I am to serve you. And it speaks to who you are as a leader. So I really appreciate that, Coach. Anything else before we hop off, man?
I don't think so, man. I've enjoyed the conversation, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed it. I know, guys, that make sure that if you're in Baton Rouge or you see Central High School coming to a town near you, go watch it. You're going to see more than just a football game. You're going to see a bunch of guys that love each other and that are working to help each other. And so wishing you luck on the season, Coach. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Thank you, brother. Look, man, I got a knucklehead that just woke up, man. So we're about to head out.
I feel you, Coach. All right. You go take care of him and get those boys going.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Wow. What a powerful conversation with Coach David Simoneux. I hope you're walking away with more than just coaching tips, that you're leaving with life lessons. And so Coach Simoneaux gave us so much that I just want to share quickly with you my top 5 key takeaways. And the first that Coach Simoneaux had talked about was that leadership is influence. It's not just impressing others. Second, That relationships are the foundation. Whether you're leading a team, leading your family, whatever it is, relationships are the foundation of what you do as a leader. He talked about the importance of your mindset and the mental toughness to overcome matter, how accountability fuels growth, and model what you expect. And so whether you're leading a team, a family, or just trying to grow as a person, the principles we discussed today are tools that you can carry into any arena. And listen, look, just like building a great team takes intentionality and precision, building a great space does too. That's why we're proud to be sponsored by Hubbard Flooring Studios. If you're ready to upgrade your home or office with top-notch flooring and service, give Vicki and the team a call at 225-924-1582 or visit hubbardflooringstudios.com. Make sure you tell them the coach sent you. As always, if this episode inspired you, make sure you subscribe, share, and leave a rating. And if you're ready to take the next step in your leadership journey, connect with me on all socials at coach_A_Clark. I'd love to walk with you. And remember, you don't need to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep innovating. Until next time, stay inspired and connected, and I will see you on the next episode of Clark Connection Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_A_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metals, Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, Joseph with Landscape King, and Chris and Jess with CNJ Embroidery. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.